Hi, I'm Phil Cook, and welcome to this episode. So many of us think in terms of creativity as being something beautiful, something lovely, something with lace all around it and happiness. But the truth is, there's a time when creativity can be almost deadly. It can be risky. Times when you have a deadline and there's a lot riding on the line and you have to perform. Today, we're going to talk about how to be creative when there's risk, when there's a deadline, when you have hit a wall. You've probably heard the phrase that creativity is more perspiration than it is inspiration. I believe that. I think certainly there's a time when ideas hit us coming out of the blue. We're sitting on the back porch, we're in the car. I know under the shower things start flowing for me. But the truth is, there's often times when creativity has a deadline. If you're working as a designer, as a writer, as a video professional, as a filmmaker, a makeup artist, anybody in the industry that has deadlines to fulfill, you have to produce and be creative on schedule, on a calendar. And during those times, we really have to amp up our game. Amp up our game, because very often it's not about waiting till the muse hits. It's having to step up and be creative in the moment. So I want to talk about really 4 key things that I've discovered in my career. Early in my 20s, I've talked on this podcast before about being picked up by Marty Krofft, who was producing the Barbara Mandrell show. He'd done a ton of children's programming. He literally owned one of the networks back in his day. I mean, it was amazing how much production was going on in prime time that Marty Krofft was responsible for. And he asked me to come to LA. I was living in the Midwest at the time, and he asked me to come and create a commercial campaign to promote one of his new shows. And I came all the way out. I'd written 5 scripts for spots, and I walked in past his 5, 6, 7 secretaries, put the scripts on his desk. I'd never met him before. I mean, literally, that was the moment we met, actually. And he read the scripts, and he looked at me, and he hated them all. I mean, he hated them all. There was profanity involved. It was ugly. And he said, "Look, tell you what, I have to go to a recording studio. I have to be at the recording for about an hour." He said, "There's a conference room at the end of the hall. The girls outside will get you whatever you need. Go to the end of the hall. You rewrite these scripts, and I want them in an hour." And I mean, you talk about a deadline. I had 1 hour to rewrite 5 commercial scripts, and I knew he hated them. And I was afraid to use a word from any of the old scripts. So that was a great example of creativity on a deadline. By the way, it worked out really, really well. He loved what we came up with. And over the years, I've had more and more of those kind of encounters. And I'll tell you, when there's a lot of money on the line, when there's reputations on the line, during a crisis, when you have to be creative in those moments and you have to start with a blank page, you need to understand some key principles that I think will help get you through those moments. How to be creative when it's risky. Number 1, here's the things you need to know in those moments. Number 1, you should be a raging consumer of media yourself. You should be watching television. You should be listening to music. You should be reading magazines. You should be reading popular books. You should devour culture, in other words. And that's not an excuse to sit on the sofa and just watch television all day long. You have to be strategic about it, be intentional about it, understand the direction the culture's going. My friend Ralph Winter, who produced X-Men, Wolverine, Planet of the Apes, he does massive, massive movies for a living. He said, when you're making a $200 million movie, it's not knowing about what's going to be popular now. It's not knowing the current popularity in the culture. It's about knowing what's going to be popular 5 years from now, because it's going to take that long to write the script, shoot the movie, edit the movie, create the special effects. It's a long process. So the only people that can be successful at that are people that really understand culture and not just see what's happening now, but see the direction the culture is moving. So number 1, subscribe to Netflix, magazines, books, whatever. Get that stuff. Be involved in culture, whether you like it or not. I'm talking about culture you don't like. I go to see movies that I don't agree with or I don't really care for, but I want to see what that director's thinking. I want to see how people are responding to it. I want to see the direction the culture's going. So number 1, be a raging consumer of media yourself. Number 2, have confidence in your talent. I'll tell you, these are not moments when you need to be a shrinking violet as far as your writing, your designing ability, your video ability, whatever it is you do. This is not the time to shrink back. And you know what? Being confident in your talent comes from years of work, practice, failure. Work, practice, failure. Work, practice, failure. Rinse and repeat. I'm telling you, that cycle has to happen over and over and over again. I love Michael Jordan's quote about the reason I'm successful is because I've failed so many times. I've missed so many shots, and that's why I'm so successful. Let me tell you, failure matters. I don't think you should get into a culture of failure. Don't get into a rut. But the truth is, the confidence from knowing what doesn't work is just as important, in fact, maybe more, than the confidence from knowing what does. So have confidence in your ability. You should be the person who, and by the way, let me say this. When you have confidence in your ability, that helps quiet that voice in your head that's telling you your stuff is junk. You know, when you're writing a script, when you're working on a video, when you're designing something new, there's always going to be that voice in your head telling you this is terrible. You need to quit. You need to get out of the business. Go sell shoes at the mall. But it's confidence. It's confidence in your ability. And I'm telling you, not misguided confidence, by the way. Lord, no, don't have misguided confidence. Oh, you have no idea the number of people I meet that believe they're absolutely gifted, absolutely brilliant, but they have no real reality check on what their gift is. True confidence is going to quiet the storm of the negative voices in your head telling you to quit, to kill yourself, to never do this again. And you need to hear that. The third thing is, I'm big on this, is develop what I call creative connections. Develop creative connections. You know, we think about creativity being a lone wolf coming up with a design or a script or whatever. It's not that way at all. In most cases, creativity comes from relationships. When you get stuck, who's that person you call for advice? When you get frustrated, who's that person you call or want to talk to or share your ideas with? I have a whole network of people that, depending on what the project is or what the idea is or what the medium is, I can go to them for advice. I want to know what they've tried before, what hasn't worked for them. In fact, I was at a digital media summit recently here in Hollywood where all the major leaders of online platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Crackle, all these different online platforms, just sitting around a table, just talking about, hey, what's working for you? What's not working? What do you see happening out there? You need to have those conversations at whatever level you're at in the industry with friends you can trust and you feel comfortable with. I remember Ed Catmull's book, Creativity Incorporated, which I highly, highly encourage people to read. He has a brain trust at Pixar. He's the president of Pixar and the president of Disney Animation. And he talks in the book, Creativity Incorporated, about how at Pixar they created what they call the brain trust, which are a group of people, men and women, who come together, who are trusted, who are experienced, who are professional, and they give notes on every project they're doing. Not in a critical way, although they're happy to point out what shortcomings there might be. But let me tell you, they are trusted voices so that whoever's working on that film, whoever's directing that particular film, has people he loves, he knows, he trusts. These are not just armchair critics. They're not social media critics that hide behind made-up names. They're people that have relationships. So the point is, you need to be in relationship so that when you hit a wall, when the stakes are high and the odds are really big, you need to have that person you can go to ask for advice. Now, make it realistic. You're not going to get Steven Spielberg on the phone. You're not going to get I'm not going to call Ed Catmull and get him on the phone to talk about the problem I'm having with a documentary I'm filming right now. That's just not going to work. However, I have people at my level around me or people that are just a little higher than me that do really significant creative work that I can call in a minute's notice and will always come up with answers and advice. They'll help me. So those creative connections are really, really very important. Number 4, and I think this is maybe possibly the best advice at all when it comes to being creative, when it's risky or when there's a lot on the line, when the stakes are high, you need to, number 4, be the calm voice in the middle of the storm. Be the calm voice in the middle of the storm. When you're working on a creative team, you need to be the one that when everybody else is freaking out, you're stable, you're bringing them back, and you're making them feel calm and feel comfortable. I'm going to tell you, when the poop hits the fan, somebody on the team needs to be realistic. Somebody on the team needs to say, okay, here's what we need to be thinking about. Let's rethink this. Let's sit down, be calm, and understand the priorities of what matters most. And that just comes from training. That comes from experience. That comes from being intentional and forcing yourself to relax. I'm going to tell you something. When it comes to the Enneagram, I'm the enthusiast. I think that's number 7. I'm the enthusiast, which means I start projects with a bang. I love starting projects. Finishing projects is something else entirely. I do it because I've had to do it over all these years, but I'm much more enthusiastic at the start of a project. So that means when I get emotional about stuff. I get really emotional when it comes to creative projects. So when I hit a wall, I want to just blow up. I want to get mad at somebody, or I want to get mad at the client, or I want to get upset with me. But I've learned over the years that simply doesn't help. It does not help. So just learn to be the calm voice in the middle of the storm, and you will be amazed. I'm just going to tell you this right now. You will be amazed at how much that will help. That alone will make a difference when the stakes are high. So let's review the 4 things, because I think these are really important. When there's risk involved with being creativity, when there's a deadline involved, when things are going wrong, when the equipment fails. I mean, I've had projects that I was almost finished with. The computer crashed. We lost everything. The backups didn't work. When those things happen, here's what you need to be thinking of. Number 1, understand what's happening in the culture. Understand, because you need to know the direction the culture is going, so that when the stakes are high, you're not going to waste a lot of time doing something cheesy, doing something off base, doing something that really is not what people are interested in. Remember, people will hire you largely because you have your finger on the pulse of the culture, and they know that I'm not wasting money on this man, this woman. They know that you're going to deliver on time, on budget, because you know what's going on. The second thing is, have confidence in your talent. Have confidence. And remember, that experience just comes from work, practice, failure. So be working, be practicing, even if you don't have a project right now. If you haven't sold a project to somebody, if you're a professional creative person, do a vanity project. Do something on your own. One of the things that I owned a really high-end commercial company, TV commercial company, for a number of years. I was partners in it. And we encourage, one of the things we hired directors on was a spec reel, which means they went out and just created a Nike commercial or an Adidas commercial or a Starbucks spot or something else. They just made it up. Nike's never going to use it. Nike wouldn't even know about it, but it built them a great demo reel. So when you're not busy, that's the time to be creating your own spec reel, your own demo reel, because that helps build your confidence in your talent. Third thing, develop creative connections. Have relationships. Spend time developing relationships with people. I've just been really, really intentional in my life about reaching out to people, learning who does what, meeting people, understanding them. And it's not just about me trying to bleed them of what they know. It's about having a relationship. So they come to me now. I go to them. When I hit a wall, I'm never by myself. I'm never by myself. Always have those kind of creative connections. And the last thing, number 4, which I think in many ways is the most important, is be the voice of calm in the middle of the storm. When everybody else in the office is going nuts, when the creative team is going crazy, the client's losing it, or your boss is losing it, you could be the voice that helps bring everything back to center and helps refocus everybody on what the priority is and what really needs to happen. So I hope you maybe go back and re-listen to this, because I want you to get this deep in your spirit, because the truth is, projects will happen, if they haven't already in your life, projects will happen where there is a real risk at being creative. There's the stakes are high. There's money on the line. There's time on the line. There's a reputation on the line. And you need to be the creative that steps up in confidence and delivers what you need when you need to deliver it. That's so incredibly important. And remember, join us on these, subscribe, go out there, share them with people, give us a rating. Feel free to go on and rate these things, because it helps us go up, which means more people get to see it, more people get to learn. And if you know people out there struggling with these things, I'd encourage you, whether this is on YouTube, this is on iTunes, I would encourage you to go out there and share these with people so they could really help go to the next level in their career. And of course, visit us at my blog, philcooke.com, Philcooke, where I talk about all these things of faith, media, and culture. And when it comes, and let me just say this, when it comes to risky creative, I'll tell you one of the best solutions is my planner. I'm not just promoting it, but I'll tell you, I created this planner to give you a base of operations, so when the what does hit the fan, you have a base you can come back to, and your ideas are here, your schedule is here, your priorities are here. We've got a habit tracker. We've got project steps you need to go through. We've got it laid out with a very minimum templates and forms you need to fill out, because you want to spend your time focusing on doing creative work. So it's not a bullet journal or a moleskin that's just blank where you have to create everything yourself. And by the same token, it's not one of the journals at the other end where you have so many questions to fill out. What's my daily affirmation? What's my magical moment I experienced today? You don't want that. We created something in the middle. So my feeling, if you're a leader Buy one of these for every member of your creative team. You want to give them a great gift that will help transform their creativity? You get them the Unique Journal. You can go to uniquecreativeplanner.com and get more information about it. You can also order it from Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's available at both places or any local bookstore. Uniquecreativeplanner.com will explain how it works. There's videos I've got that walk you through it, but this will help transform your creativity, particularly when we're in times like we talked about today, when the risk is up there, the stakes are high, and you need to deliver on time and on budget. Stay tuned. We're going to be covering other topics that I think are going to really help you in your creative life. Thanks for tuning in.